Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Elaine Weiner-Reed and we are in 2020, the spring of 2020. In previous paintings, we've talked about abstraction, and the global topic that this is in is reality abstracted. So I want to just show you my approach, some things that have influenced my life, and give you something to explore and experiment with on your own time in the safety of your own homes. Welcome. I will try to speak louder. I have noticed that in previous videos, I talk low. So I will try to speak up more so that this is all more audible for you as I work. And I'd like you to make sure you have your paints around, whatever you work with, and whether on canvas or paper, just explore and think about abstraction. Now, there's a scale and a range of abstraction. From abstraction where you can recognize the source material and idea behind it, such as a still life, which we did last time in video 4, or whether it's a landscape or whether something is non-objective. And that can mean many things. So look that up, look how different artists have handled that. But for me, non-objective starts with emotions and experiences inside of me. So when they come out, they would not possibly be recognizable to anyone else. And I may or may not give a hint of that in my naming of the piece itself. So what we'll talk about today is abstracting reality. So starting from a scene or a landscape, we will do a live painting. Again, the caveat is you probably will not see anything nearing a masterpiece. But what I want to show you is my approach to it and share some ideas so that as you're exploring this concept on your own, you're given the freedom to, one, mess up. Don't worry about making a masterpiece in your studio. It may or may not happen over time. If we're lucky, maybe 1 in 20 or 1 in 100 is a great painting. So to push myself as well in our times together, I am going to do a landscape. I have been in a figurative phase now pretty much for almost 8-9 years, if not more. So I found an old landscape I did. I learned classical oil painting. I'll hold this up here. Back in the 80s from a European master whose name was Eugene Kamelak. So I learned underpaintings and what goes into making it, the glow and the light. So this was actually, looks kind of representational, right? Well, it was from a photograph I had taken years before that in California, in Yosemite, yes. And this is Vernal Falls. I was awestruck by the beauty and majesty of the place in the park. So I had to capture this. Now already, it's not running water, it's not real trees and rocks and sky, but it's an abstraction of reality. So it can be this representational or what we might try to get on paper today. So now I'm working from my own idea, from my own photograph and my own oil painting to an acrylic painting I'll do on another canvas. So to get the mood, see this is kind of gray. And when you go to Vernal Falls, there's a lot of spray from the waterfalls around. So sometimes you don't see much sun coming through. There are hints of pink through the sky and color, but I really wanted that idea of the rushing water building to the base of the painting. So using this as my guide, and then taking this photograph, and this was from a National Geographic many years ago, probably 20 years or more ago, but I love that sky and cloud. Recently, I've been taking a whole lot of cloud photos as I've been walking my neighborhood. So seeing the rich warmth color of this and almost the danger and the presence in it, I thought I want to try to bring that pink and orange to this landscape in a whole new painting based on reality, but stretching farther and farther afield. And since we're due to have a thunderstorm here today, I figured it was appropriate. So welcome. I'll move a few things out of the way and get started painting. Enjoy. Stop at any time. And I do hope that I'm loud enough for you to hear. I'll try to name colors when I'm working on it, but I will probably get lost in the process at some point. So I'm going to leave this up here on the other easel. So you might be able to zoom in your own home. And this I'm going to just tape up or clip up here with a type of bulldog clip to remind me of what I want to try to achieve. I'll move my chair out of the way for now. And sometimes you can go about this doing a sketch in a sketchbook as well. Since I already had done sketches before this, I wanted to start with a blank canvas that I just before we started filming threw this on. So I wanted to push the landscape down and give more play to the sky and clouds. So here, all I did, and I get it on me already, was put some very liquid paint to try to sketch in the idea and where I want stuff. There will be much less water showing here because of my focus I want on this one is for the sky. Again, it's been a long time since I've done a landscape, so you never know what you're going to get. So I'm thinking, as you learn to mix colors, do play. Especially in oil painting, I would mix my own. From the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, you can make almost every shade of green you want. And somewhere, I hope I find it before the end of this video series, I'll show you the board on which I had a sample mixing to see how light you could get. And then you can add some white or some black to it to tone it or lighten it, make it foggier looking color by adding the white pigment. So right here, hopefully you can see that okay. I tried to keep the glare off this time. As I often do, I'll show you, I'm just going to start by throwing, this is a cobalt blue, and sort of blocking it in. And because I think I want the sky lighter right now and the darker shapes on these rocks here, I'm just going to throw some in here like this. I may throw a little bit up in the corner. And as you know, I like to paint wet into wet. So I like to put a lot of paint on, and at some point I'll start and move around it. So it will be unfinished probably at the end of this video. I'll try to keep it for a half hour. Now, in this blue and of the trees and rock, I'm going to put a little bit of this red oxide back in here to just have some underplay. We'll see if I get some trees on here or not, but we'll give it a shot. All right. So what I want to show is nowhere does it say you have to add water. You add water to get the consistency and the depth of paint color you want. I'm going to start with, I may just start up here. It's just calling my name, and then we can go over this. Up in here, this is actually just to show you, I use all kinds of paint, whatever's at hand. This is Artist Loft paint. So it was from Michael's many years ago, and it tends to be a portrait paint. I guess this is portrait pink, believe it or not, but it has an orange hue to it. So it's a good flesh tone, or it's good for some of these areas here. So I'm going to do. Then always I have paper towels and some rags. We want to protect our materials as much as possible. And I think I grab yet another brush too. Up in here, I'm going to also put some down in where the waterfall will be to unify the work. So this, let's try to, through negative shape, we're going to put some of the blue, try to give it some edge and interest. So many painters and artists talk about foreground and background. I tend to flatten things out and not think of it as that point because just the very bird background sounds less important. Sometimes it can be, well, it's always integral to a piece. So always give all parts of your work as much attention and care. And what I'm going to try to do in this way too is to shape the top of this landscape. I want some light showing, but as you notice, I'm now getting into the color more than worrying about any of the images. What I sometimes look at the images for is to see where I might want to put some of my own darker colors to blend in later. Just here. I'll look there just to remind me of what I saw and felt when I was there in person. So let me just show you, before I do too much on it, how I am trying to cover the page and lay this in here. I'm trying to not make it half and half even, so I may pull the sky down more. But again, just to start laying this in. I have grabbed some white. And I'm going to use this palette, excuse the tube, what we used last time. Set that brush down. You know what I'm going to grab? is ultramarine blue. With this, I'm going to leave that primarily blue-red brush there, and I'm going to bring over a couple yellows just to have a little bit closer. Bright red, we might need that to boost the color a little bit, and some black. Black I'm going to put on the other side of that little recyclable container. And with the black, I'm going to try to put in some of the tree shapes, just so I don't forget I want to do some, right? Some of the evergreen-like shapes and trees. But I want to do them kind of as a continuum. So that, and almost, if I can, at this point, mostly a solid shape. So that as the two sides of the stream come together, and I have not done evergreen trees in probably 20 years, so here we go. The thing about trying something that you haven't done in a while is that it connects to your old knowledge and brings you forward. Even if it's a failed experiment, it's a worthwhile one. And by that I mean failed only in terms of it's not a great painting when you're done, but all of the knowledge that you gain by doing it, just making art, is very worthwhile. Now here, I'm just going to try to think how I want in this new painting the evergreen shapes and the water to kind of go off the side. We're going to have less over here just for interest. So I'm going to blend in most of that. And then remember, we always think about shapes. So what I want to do eventually is make sure all the shapes are interesting. And I'm just going to give a hint over here, though, of some rocks on the water, some rapids. This. So try to give myself an idea. The cool thing about this is you can sometimes scrape in this, and I'll bring this over to show you on the computer shortly, but it can give you an idea of drawing in this wet paint to give yourself an idea of how you now really want to carry this forward. You can see why, for me, it's a good idea to have an apron on. This is still too holy, but what I'm going to try with this one, keep the black brush kind of separate there. I'm going to grab a green. Instead of that, I'll show you how to make it. push this up with the way, hopefully not get another painting outfit. This is a cad yellow dark. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, you see where, put this on here. In some random patterns to get some of the light. Then I definitely want to clean this off because I don't want black in that yellow. So what I'll do, squeeze out the stained paint before I put the lid back on. I also do have a green. It's a permanent green light, just in case we really want some of that in there. So now I'm going to take this brush that has some of the lighter color. I'm going to paper towel wipe off a little bit of that pigment out of here so that I can just start to, first of all, this is getting a little tacky now. So what I want to do is actually not keep it so dark. And I'm going to want some red in that sky at some point, but not yet. White, however, I will want. Also going to right in here. Start just a little bit of this movement, simulating a tiny bit how water flows. But right now, the brush has gotten full of dark paint again. I'm going to clean most of that off. And now I'm going to concentrate just up on here for now. We also need some yellow up in here, I think. And I will probably take, and we know that clouds have every shape imaginable, tend to be soft. I mean, they're, but where the sky and the clouds meet, we want some interest. Trying to have a light hand and wisp it. I cannot ignore this yellow though. So we're gonna add some of this bright. You can always tone it down later. But to give the idea, there's light and there's kind of a storm brewing here. What I want you to think about too is everything you look at, trees, take a closer look at everything. In them and in the trunks of trees, you can often see, when you're really looking, rich blues, some reds, even though you would think it's just brown bark on a tree, it's really not. Sometimes it's purple. One of my favorites. Time for another rag almost for today. Otherwise, you keep getting it all over yourself. What I'm also going to do is take the palette knife, do a little bit of shaping and cutting out kind of with that. Always my finger. We also want some of the underpainting and colors that we put on to show. What you'll often notice is reality or not, if you want. So again, this is abstraction of reality, but sometimes you want a little elements of it so it's a recognizable form. I, at least for now, do not want to lose the essence of a landscape. There's a lot of paint on here. Let me just pull it up for a second to look at. So you can see a lot more has to be done here, but, and I'll do a tiny bit more. I'm going to actually, using a paper towel, I'm going to move my oil painting away so I'm less focused on reality. We will take that down as well. And now I want to just look at what I'm creating and the feel that I want. Because I always do it, landscape or not. What's it look like upside down? Well, to me, at least right now, kind of boring. And there's just a lot of stuff happening in the center of the painting. So let's see what we can do about this. The dark, I can always put other colors on top of that. But I think for now, I'm going to put the brushes mostly in the water to sit. Take this one, clean it up just a little from the yellow, and work on getting some better shape here. So do I want to bring the landscape in here to have more interest? Because this is pretty much a straight, boring line or a bowl. So it's like a hole. It's not interesting to me at all. So what I might do is quinacridone red. Now, you know, when I do this, I'll have to work the entire painting again, but I just can't stand it. So this is kind of how I go about it. So this, we are bringing looks like more of this. So that at least one side is not like the other. up in here because I really did like some of that dark stuff up in here, that sky. So we might almost make it like a night stormy sky. But already even upside down, I like this better. You might not know me, but I do what's called an extreme makeover on my own paintings sometimes. I look at them for a long time, and if they continue to bother me, a landscape might become a figurative painting. All of this is worthwhile as an underpainting for something else. Now this. Doing this, turning it upside down, shows you, this takes you right back to it being an abstract. It's hard to think of it as a landscape when it's upside down, though it's still in my head. So now I need to see, what else do I need to do to make it interesting? You can mix your colors, remember, right on this. This, by the way, was a light ultramarine blue. I don't think I'm ready to turn it upside down quite yet, or right side up. So I'm gonna get some paint out of this one brush. Squeeze it out with my fingers and then with paper towel. And try to say, what's going on here? I have a lot of streaks. Peaks of blue, peaks of. So if I'm trying, as it gets drier, what's really nice is you can spread with a drier brush. Just make it look wispy. You can start to get some of those, the feel you were trying to get. Remember, the one thing about sky is it comes down and descends like fog sometimes on a landscape. So I will turn this over now because I think we're probably getting close to the 30-minute mark. I don't want to keep you too long. And I'll show you how To me, this is more exciting a painting. So I've lost a lot. The colors maybe are not logical or what you would think of. Let me hold it back if you can see it a little bit, try to get the glare off it. But to me, it's more exciting a base to paint on. So I hope this has helped. I love some of the stuff going on here because I'm not now separating trees and the rocks behind the falls, the mountains, or the water. But what I'm getting is this whole sense of excitement and movement. And that to me, so I'll tell you, that feels more like one of the days at Vernal Falls when I was there. There were the cool days, but there were the wild ones. They're the stormier days where it's building, where you don't know what's going on in the sky. So that to me is exciting, an exciting abstraction of reality. So moving down that abstraction spectrum, do I want to leave it? I'm not sure yet. But what I want to show you is that you have the choice. You as the artist, it is your voice, your expression, and do your best to try not to please others so much as yourself when you're painting. It's great when people like what we do. I'm not kidding. But sometimes if you've been a reality and more realistic, naturalistic painter, and you step out into the world of abstraction, you will lose some fans, but you'll gain others. And the important part of a creative process is exploring what you want to say through your feelings, your choice of color, your touch with a brush or with a palette knife or a pencil. It is all about you when it comes to your creative voice and you in your studio, whether it's on your kitchen table, anywhere. Find and channel and continue to feed that joy that is yours and yours alone. And there are no regrets. There are no failures in your studio. Everything you do informs the next work and builds on itself. So that if you didn't do this or make messes, it's a progression. So I wish you well. I wish you fun in your creative exploration. And I want to thank you for joining me in my studio today. Be safe, be well, and stay creative. Thank you.